All right. Thanks everyone for joining us this morning. My name is Austin Farmer. I'm the marketing director here at the Retail Coach. And I'm going to be joined today by Aaron Farmer, our senior vice president, and Charles Parker, project director here at the Retail Coach. Hey guys.
Hey, Austin, great to be here.
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good morning. So, for those of you that are new to the Retail Coach, just a quick introduction to us. We've been attending and helping client communities navigate this ICSE Recon conference for more than 18 years. And we have a ton of experience out at Recon. And so, we're going to walk through some practical steps and some things that you can do to get the most out of going to this Recon conference in Vegas. Just a quick note before we get started. We're recording this webinar and we'll be sending out a video as well as the slides that we walk through afterwards. So if you miss something, don't worry about it. We'll be sending that to follow up. And there's also on the right-hand side of your screen in the GoToWebinar panel, there's a box for questions. And so we'll be taking questions as we go through this webinar. So feel free, if you have a question, type a question in there. I'll be looking at those and then I'll be tossing those questions out to the guys. Aaron, Charles, y'all ready?
Yeah, just one thing I'll add, Austin, is we're going to kind of talk an overview here of ICSE. So if any of you want to talk individually after this, or you have additional questions, even after the webinar, we'll leave our contact info up at the end, and we'll be happy to talk with you one-on-one as well.
Great. So just a quick overview of the agenda. We're going to do a quick rundown of the 2018 retail outlook. So what can you expect from retailers this year? What are some of the trends we're seeing? Where is retail going? We'll talk about some retailer expansion plans, or at least retailers that we know have announced new store openings or are looking at new markets. We'll talk about Recon, and then as Aaron mentioned, we'll have a Q&A session, and then we'll have their contact information up on the screen so you can contact us with any other questions. So jumping into it, Aaron, what are some of the 2018 retail trends that we're seeing? What can people expect from retail this year?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you first off, retail is changing. That's pretty evident. It doesn't matter where you are in the United States, retail is changing. Consumer preferences are continuing to evolve. So with the online shopper and the online shopping, such as Amazon and some of the others that are getting into that right now, you're seeing that really force retailers, brick and mortar retailers, to change. But I'll tell you, it's not all the, you might have heard the term the retail apocalypse. It's not the retail apocalypse. It's basically these retailers, these restaurants are just having to evolve and really change up what they're doing. So we've got a graphic on the screen here that kind of talks about the online shopper versus the in-store shopper. It makes sense that the online shopper is typically a younger crowd, so 18 to 34 is the age group there. When you're looking at the in-store shopper, tends to be 35 plus years old. You can look at kind of the income breakdown there too versus the other. So there's a number of different things that you can kind of look at, comparing the online shopper versus the in-store shopper. But I'll tell you, 78% of consumers are shopping in stores either about the same or more than they were a year ago. So again, it's not all doom and gloom, but more importantly, the younger generation, so that's your Generation Z, your millennials, they're visiting stores more. So that's a positive that we're seeing, at least from the brick and mortar game. And then also right now, the most really impactful innovations are those that are transforming but not replacing the physical retail experience. If you're like me, if you're like other consumers as well, you want to be able to have both. You want to be able to have the online experience, but you also want to have that in-store experience as well. So it's finding that kind of middle ground between the two. And really the retailers that are finding that middle ground are the ones that are really succeeding and really expanding at the moment. Also what we're looking at here is just, again, these retailers kind of reinventing themselves, kind of transforming the way they're doing business. We've got a couple of pictures up here, but 70% or so of consumers are saying that technology has made it easier for them to take their business elsewhere. So, one of the things that we see right now and that's impacting retailers is what we call showrooming. And that's where somebody will walk in, they'll see an item and then maybe look on their phone and see, hey, can I buy this online cheaper somewhere else? some of the things that we are seeing is Kohl's and Amazon, for example. They've teamed up. You might have seen this already, but Amazon has these little kind of pop-up shops or stores within a store type concepts. Really focused kind of on the smart home store type of opportunity. And then Walmart, you probably noticed this, but they've aggressively been adding new conveniences. So you can do the store pickup. I did that. My son wanted a watch, a smart watch, and I was able to buy it online and pick it up in store, Walmart the same day. So you're seeing that happen a lot. Grocery stores are good examples as well. If you're in Texas, we've got where I am here in Austin, we've got HEB as our main grocery store, and they've got the store pickup that they do there. They call it the curbside pickup, but you're seeing that also. Walmart, Kroger, some other retailers are taking advantage of that as well. So, you know, again, brick and mortar retail is not going away. It's just really transforming kind of what's happening. So it's some good changes we're seeing. And again, those retailers that are changing, those retailers that are evolving, they are going to be the ones that succeed here in the next couple of months. You know, we're seeing this also with some of the brick and mortar makeovers. So you might have noticed this if you've traveled to some urban areas recently or even some suburban areas, but these retailers are really redefining what it means to have a physical retail space. A good example would be, you know, Target. They've rolled out their new concepts. They've got the City Target. I went into a City Target in Seattle not too long ago. They've also got their Target Express concepts. But, you know, really Target is focused on college campuses and college campus growth. They're, again, trying to get the convenience factor of it, those sort of things. Sephora is another one. They've come out with their new Sephora Studio. You know, it's a small format neighborhood type concept. In the past, they had mostly been situated within JCPenney's locations. Now they've come out, they're kind of doing the this studio, which is a little bit smaller concept than what they've done in the past. And then Whole Foods has opened up a little bit smaller format store. They call it the 365 location. If you remember, Whole Foods was recently purchased by Amazon. So you know, 365 focus on fast, consumer-friendly experience, lower everyday prices. So a little bit lower prices than Whole Foods. But again, just to kind of end this slide, 75% of consumers still want to see a product in store before they purchase. So again, brick and mortar retail is not going away. If that was the case, Amazon would not be opening brick and mortar locations. They've opened up an Amazon Go location. They plan to expand that rapidly. They've recently opened some bookstores as well. So, you know, really to kind of round this out, the last mile, we're seeing a lot of these retail stores acting more as fulfillment centers. You know, I was reading an article last night actually about Macy's, and you know, Macy's has been that traditional kind of mid-price retailer that it was a department store, and now they're starting to add more stores so that you can buy stuff online and pick it up at the store, and that's going to be something we see happen over the future here. Some of the retailers are partnering with delivery companies. A good example is Walgreens has partnered with FedEx for pickup services, so pickup and delivery type services. And then the same thing, again, I mentioned this already, but you know, whether it's Target, Best Buy, some of the others, they're really focused on that in-store pickup side of things.
So moving from what the trends that we've seen and what people can expect from 2018, Charles, can you tell us a little bit about some of the new store openings and some of the announcements that we've seen from retailers that are looking at new markets or opening new stores?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I know Aaron had mentioned the retail apocalypse mentality that you hear all the stores closing every week. So I know that we don't give a lot of attention to what all is being opened in terms of brick and mortar. Like Aaron said, it's not going away. It's just changing. And we're seeing the brands that are being able to adapt are having the most success. Looking back at 2017 and into 2018, we're seeing a lot of the same national brands continue their expansion process, more of the discount brands, the dollar stores, but then also, you know, Aldi and Lidl are planning on opening several hundred more stores overall. And then we see the craft stores at the Hobby Lobby, and then, you know, with a few others like the Target and the Walmart, the big stores that we see that are struggling as much are finding ways to stay relevant, whether it be through partnerships or anything else to get people through the door. Aaron mentioned with Amazon dropping stores, they're also dropping other, brick and mortar types with treasure trucks and things like that to create that experience. And, while consumers still are wanting to go online for shop on a few things, return policies are still, over 60% of people like to return in store. So retail's not going away. And we're seeing that with store openings that seem to be overshadowed a little bit by closings lately.
Yeah, I think one thing to note as well is, if you look at Walmart only opening 25 stores, they're only opening 25 new stores, but they've announced, especially here in Texas and in Florida, they're remodeling most, if not all, of their stores, and they're putting a significant investment into changing up some of those store formats as well, which ultimately will lead to some new stores and new opportunities in other markets.
Right.
So jumping into Recon. So we're about 2.5, 3 weeks away from the ICSE Recon conference in Las Vegas. Aaron, can you walk us through some of the practical tips and tricks that we've developed over the last decade plus and really help people approach Recon, figure out their strategy? Can you walk us through some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of give a little bit of background, I think this will be my 12th year to be out at Recon and ICSE. But as a company, Kelly Kofer, some of the others, we've been going out there for 20 plus years. So we really have a good understanding of what to look at there. I will tell you, I go to conferences throughout the country, and ICSE Recon is unlike any of them or any others. There's three main halls that we're focused on here that the conference takes up. So if you've ever been to the Las Vegas Convention Center, it's a huge facility, but the Recon takes up the entire conference. So if we'll flip to that next slide real quick, the first area that you want to look at is the South Hall. You've got the South Hall, the Central Hall. So the South Hall will be in purple here on the screen. You've got the upper level and you've got the lower level. And this is where you're going to find a lot of your retailers, your developers, your brokers, and your financial institutions. You've then got the Central Hall, which is in orange here. And this is where, again, you'll find a lot of those retailers, developers, brokers, and financial institutions. They've kind of split it up this year that you have kind of a strong mix of retailers and restaurants in the South Hall, a strong mix in the Central Hall, and then also a strong mix in the North Hall. So you're really going to be spending your time with the kind of split between these three halls. And I will tell you, it doesn't look like it's a long distance on this map here, but I will tell you, it's about at least a 10-minute walk from the South Hall all the way to the North Hall, which is in kind of a dark gray color here. So if you got meetings scheduled ahead of time, you need to make sure you give yourself enough time to get to the different halls. So make sure you're looking ahead of time to see where your meetings are at and what you have scheduled. The North Hall is also a big focus of brokers and developers. So you'll see a lot of those brokers and developers in the North Hall, which is green here. So you're going to want to spend your time, again, between the three halls. Again, there will be a lot of walking. Bring comfortable shoes. It's a long way over there. But I do think you'll if you spend your time in between the three halls, you pay attention to when your meetings are, where they're at, you give yourself enough time, there will be no questions on that.
Yeah, these maps are certainly deceiving how far apart these halls can be. You do need to make sure you budget enough time if you're going from meeting from one to another. It's easily 10, 15 minutes, in distance alone, plus the crowd, because we'll be fighting 40,000 people trying to set up meetings. That's just a big thing to keep in mind. I know one day last year, I think I ended up walking 18 miles throughout the day between meetings. So it's a workout in itself.
Yeah, and one of the things we always do is it doesn't take much time to just map it out ahead of time. You could do it on the airplane on the way to Las Vegas, or just try to have a ballpark figure of where your meetings are, so you can budget that time, like Charles said. Aaron, how important is it for communities to manage and set realistic goals and expectations?
I mean, this is key. I'm a big believer that you've got to have goals when you go to something like this, and you've got to manage expectations, especially if if you've got a couple of council members, you've got a couple of board members that are at the conference. You absolutely have to manage expectations. You have to that's key here, because you've got to look at this. You're not looking to make a deal at this conference. You typically don't see deals happen. What you're trying to do is you're trying to build relationships. You're trying to network out there so that, hey, maybe you meet with Target this year. They might not put something in the store. They might not put something in your community, but then you meet with them again next year and they come in. So, the goals need to be meet people and make connections. Number one. That's the number one goal. Number two, attend all social functions that make sense for your community. So a lot of these brokers, a lot of these developers, a lot of these retailers will host receptions or parties, if you will, in the evenings. A good example, we're hosting a reception, the Retail Coach, at our booth, both on Monday afternoon and Tuesday afternoon from 4 to 5:30. So we're going to have retailers, we're going to have developers at those receptions. So it would be good for you to be there so you can meet retailers and developers. I've seen a lot of times where some of the best conversations happen at the reception. So make sure you do that. And then lastly, make sure you're attending the educational seminars. These will be going on throughout Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, very close to where these other halls are. So make sure you take a look at that. A lot of it will be focused on retail trends and industry news. Those are also good ones to send some council members and economic development members to get them to understand the process a little bit better.
Aaron, that reminds me of last year. You actually presented at one of those educational sessions on shopping malls, and it was amazing to see how educational that was and how many communities came out of that with an action plan for some of their shopping malls that were declining. So I would definitely encourage people to go to those if they can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Charles, talk to us a little bit about how important it is to know your market going into Recon. What should people look at in terms of their community and their retail market before they get to Recon?
Absolutely. So the most important thing to sell your community is know exactly what it is. And we're not just talking about, your community population, but what's your trade area population? How many consumers come to your market and shop there, which is usually a much larger number than your city population intact. So we always like to recommend that you know exactly who you are and have some kind of information regarding vacancies, available sites, where these retailers could possibly go. Because once you start talking to them about your market and they realize that there's a potential there for their brand, their next question is going to turn around and be, where can I go? Where's there a vacancy or an opportunity for me? So that's an important piece to make sure that you have some information on potential sites. And then even do some background research before the conference about leakage. Let them know that, in that particular brand that, women's shoes or sit down restaurants, there's a leakage in your market so that they know that there's an opportunity there and that they need to be in your market over a competing market next door or up the road, that your market's the place to be.
Great. So
talk a little bit about the retail trade area here, going with the maps and things like that. We do a lot of this through cell phone analysis where we can trace out where your customers are going, through cell phone and GPS data. And that all goes back to the gap analysis that we can point out that there is a strength in the market and that, you do need a new boutique or a new restaurant.
Definitely. And Aaron, I know you've done a lot of work recently with cell phone and GPS data and those retail gap analysis. How important is it for people to have this information going into conversations with those retailers?
It's very important. I remember 5-10 years ago, we were relying on computer models. So radials, drive times, those sort of things. That's old data now. If I'm a retailer, I'm a developer, and I'm looking for information on a community, retail trade area, whatever it might be, I'm looking for more detailed information, specifically the cell phone analysis. So make sure, as you go forward, you're getting that factual data, something like a cell phone analysis. That's what's going to interest a retailer. That's what's going to interest a restaurant, and really going to shine your community in the best light.
So here's where it gets a little bit tricky because we love having all that data, but we also want to make sure that what we're giving people at Recon is practical and is not going to end up in the trash can. So we really encourage people to invest in marketing materials, but we want to make sure those marketing materials are simple. Aaron, how do you encourage communities to invest in the right marketing materials to take out there?
Yeah, well, I think you hit on it. I laugh because every year at these conferences, you see these communities hand out these huge packets of information, 30, 60 pages worth to retailer. When you, at the end of the show, when everybody's leaving, they've got those big drum trash cans at the kind of the exit to the show. And you always see these retailers are throwing these packets and that in the trash can. So we're big believers at the retail coach that you need to keep it simple. And, something that you're able to really kind of easily sell your community with in about 3 minutes. So what we do for our clients is we'll put together a front and back flyer. So, a good example here, this is a front and back flyer on a site that we put together for a community. This would be, something you want to have. You want to have the demographics they want to see. You want to have the map of the site. You want to have a map of your trade area. And then we also want to have contact info on there so that they're contacting you and not going to a city website, then an EDC, then a chamber site, that they're contacting you directly. So that's key, but keep it simple. If you have questions on this, we've still got time. If you need a flyer put together, we've still got time. We could put something together for you, but try to keep it simple in your marketing materials. Don't make the mistake of taking huge packets of information. I think we're going to talk about it in a minute, but you can take an iPad out there and email your information out. That would be just as effective. So perfect transition. iPad is a way to kind of have all of this information on there, and being able to send it out immediately. That's what I like to do. I like to hand over the one-page flyer, and then I like to send over, if they're interested in 3 sites that we have in our database, and I'll send over those 3 sites immediately and write to them. So that is key. I will tell you, you want to have, and I mentioned this already, but that one-page community flyer is key. You can kind of see some of ours and what they look like on the screen here. But again, community overview. So just a quick blurb about the community. Location map, showing where your community is. You're going to be talking to a number of retailers and developers that probably are not from your region. So you're going to need to be able to show them where you are. You want to have that retail trade area map that Charles talked about earlier. You want to show them the demographics, the key demographics, age, income, those sort of things. Typically, we'll put traffic counts on a flyer as well. And then also, just to reemphasize here, lastly, make sure your contact info is on there. They need somebody to contact directly. So that's key in this process.
And the simplicity of that is what makes it the most useful, because the reality is a lot of people ultimately get hundreds of these at the conference. And so a lot of those end up in the trash can. So don't invest too much in getting fancy flyers and adding pages and pages and pages, but make it practical and valuable, and then be ready to email that to someone or to follow up with that digitally as well, so they don't have to carry it and it doesn't get lost. So Aaron, in terms of strategy, after you have your market information and you've got your marketing materials and you've got the kind of the physical stuff ready to go, how should you approach the strategy of going out to Recon in terms of bringing retailers back to your community?
Well, again, I'm a big believer that you've got to have your day structured out there. You've got to have goals. You've got to know what you're doing, basically. So number one, structure your day. Set aside a specific amount of time to go talk to retailers at their booths. Set aside some time to go to some of the receptions. Set some time to go to some of the workshops and sessions. But you want to target and meet retailers that fit your community. If you're a town of 2,000, you don't have an interstate, I wouldn't waste your time at the Bass Pro Shops booth. Yeah, their booth looks really cool, and it is fun to kind of walk in there, but I would not waste your time on that. I would go after some of those retailers that really fit the community. Target and meet retailers that fit your community. I mentioned that already, but make sure again, just to reemphasize that, make sure you're going after those. You can look on ahead of time. You can look on ICSC's website at the Recon conference page, and they've got a list of attendees. They've got a list of booths on there and maps. And then lastly, make sure you sell your community first and then sell the site. So pitch your community, typically the first question you'll get from a retailer that is interested is they'll say, well, tell me what sites are available. So that's when you want to transition in and sell sites to them, or get the sites in front of them. But you also want to invite retailers to visit your community. So it's great to have a conversation. It's great to meet with somebody in Las Vegas, but the overall goal needs to be, hey, can I get them to my community? Can I get them in the car for a tour? Can I get them driving around with me? So make sure you're meeting with retail brokers that are active in your area. So let's say you're outside of a major metro area. So maybe you're a suburb outside of Oklahoma City. Make sure you're focusing on going after brokers that are in Oklahoma City, or maybe even some that are in Tulsa, but some that are in the region there. A lot of times these brokers are the gatekeepers. So you need to make sure you're not just focused on retailers and developers, but you're focused on these brokers as well. And then also, same thing goes with developers. Don't spend all your time focused on retailers. Go talk to developers as well. This is key. Having conversations with developers is key, because if you notice when you drive anywhere in the U.S., a lot of what the new retail that we're seeing is developer driven. So make sure you're structuring your time and splitting it out between retailers, brokers, and developers.
So Charles, Aaron talked about targeting retailers, and I know that you were actually in the market with one of our client communities yesterday, actually talking to retailers in a development group. How should communities really target the retailers that they need to go after and talk to, and even developers?
Yeah, absolutely. And we spent time yesterday, like you said, in a client community talking with a few clients that, met the criteria for our particular client there. And that's a big piece, is that when you go up and approach a retailer, you want to make sure that you've done some research. We've got some examples up here of some standards for In-N-Out Burger, what they look for in a site. But make sure you reach their population in your trade area, and that you have a site that has the right traffic that they're looking for, and just some front end research going into those meetings with some of those target guys that you're trying to set up with in Vegas, that you know what they're looking for, and that you have 2 or 3 sites that fits their criteria. It lets them know that you've done your research, you're educated on it, and that this really may be a viable site. And in addition to some of the site criteria, I know I mentioned earlier, I think on the next slide, we have stuff about leakage analysis. Even if a perfect site, exists in your community that matches up, if you already have a surplus of fast food chains or something of the likes in your community, it may deter them. So make sure that you're going after retailers that match up with where your leakage is. Go after targets that people right now in your community are currently leaving your community. And paint the full picture in your meeting with these guys. And that, hey, like I said, it shows that you're educated about the market and that it is a fit, and gives you credence talking to them. And it also piques their interest that, they've done their homework. They're really interested in me. Maybe there's a possible solution here where we can locate in their community.
Great. We actually already had a question about this, but someone asked, how do we connect with retailers before we get out to Recon? And one of the ways that you can do that is on the ICSC website. They have a list of retailers and tenants that are attending the conference. So you can see who will be there, what retailers, what brokers will be there. And then Aaron and Charles, I'll let either of y'all take this, but what about communities that want to get in touch with specific retailers or brokers before they get out there? How can we help them do that?
Yeah, well, like you said, there's a list online where you can go out and see who all is going to be attending. And this is another chance to do some front end research. Like Firehouse Subs is going to have 15, 20 people out there representing all their territories. If you can make sure that you can reach out to the proper guy beforehand to know that he's in your territory, he's looking at your sites, it's a good chance to lead in to set something up beforehand.
And if you're looking for the right person, feel free. We'll have Aaron and Charles's contact information up on here after we're done with the presentation. Reach out to them if you need help connecting to the right person. Aaron, I know we have a database of retailers and brokers all over the country, so that's something that you do a lot. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Like Austin said, just reach out to us. We'll help you. I mean, I think the key here is, again, to just focus on retailers that fit the community. Take a look at the website, the ICSC website. Go through that. and feel free to reach out to us after this call, and I'll be happy to sit down with you before the conference starts, maybe on Sunday or Monday morning, and we'll go through a list and kind of identify specific retailers, brokers, and developers. But you can kind of take a look too. As far as brokers go, you can look at just do a quick Google search and look up who are the retail brokers in your major metro areas, and then target them based off of that. But I'll be happy to meet with anybody individually before or right at the beginning of the conference to go through that.
Great. And to wrap it up, Aaron, you touched on this earlier that most of the time when you go to Recon, deals don't really happen in a booth at Recon. It's all about the follow through. So help people understand how they should approach the follow through. So we've gone to Recon, we've met with retailers and brokers. How do we follow up and follow through to get the most out of our investment and going out there?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important. The follow up, like you said, Austin, is the most important part of this. And what I like to do, just as a good example, is I'll actually, if I meet with somebody on Monday of the conference, I'll actually follow up with them with an email Monday night. Or if I know they're interested in a couple of sites at a specific size in my community, I'll go ahead and follow up with them on those sites immediately. So I think there's some immediate follow up you can do. So same day follow up, and then once you get back that next week, I would follow up and maybe invite them again to the community. And then you just want to continue that for the next couple of months, and really as long as it takes. You want to be persistent but not pesky, if that makes sense. So you want to continue to reach out to them, always have something to give them. So maybe you met with this retailer and you had 2017 data, and now you've just got 2018 data. That's a reason to follow up. Maybe a new site has come available. That's another way to follow up. So again, be persistent but not annoying, and make a plan for follow up, and that's the key going forward. Again, ask them, hey, are you going to be in my area anytime soon? If so, let me take you out. Let me do this. So that's one way to look at it.
Great. So we'll go ahead and jump into Q&A. So as we mentioned before, Aaron and Charles's contact information is up there. Please, if you have questions, reach out to them. They can help you with some of the details of Recon, or if something pops up beforehand, let us know. We can help you if we can. But one of the first,
real quick.
Yeah.
Let me emphasize one other thing really quick. If you're going to Recon in 2 weeks and you do not have 2018 data, you have 2015, 2017, 2010 census data, don't go out there with that data. Reach out to us today, tomorrow, whenever, and we'll help you get some new data. You're competing with communities out there. They're going to have 2018 data. So if you don't have that available, ready to go, reach out to us. I just wanted to emphasize that because I preach that to our clients. You've got to have up-to-date data. Make sure, I just wanted to overemphasize that. Make sure you've got 2018 data.
Definitely. And that kind of plays into one of the questions we got was, we don't have site profiles and we don't have a lot of data. What should we do to get that before Recon? How can we do that?
One thing you can do is just drive around your community and look for sites that are available. LoopNet is a good resource if you're in a suburban or maybe urban area, but identify 10 or 15 sites. Look for different size sites. Look for pad sites, so maybe 1 or 2 acre pad sites. Look for larger properties. Maybe you're looking to recruit a Target. Maybe you're looking to recruit a Kohl's or something like that. Have some larger sites available as well. But then also go ahead and start putting information on those sites together. You can reach out to us if you need help with site profiles, but even if you don't have the site profiles ready for the conference, at least have a list of sites so that you can send that information over to the interested retailers and developers.
Along those lines, we had another question about, sorry, I'm trying to read that here. We have a lot of landowners in the community that aren't necessarily developers, but they might be valuable contacts. Should we consider having their contact information or getting them involved with Recon as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing. Absolutely. If you've got some developers in the community, you've got some landowners that are really interested or aggressive in wanting to pitch their sites, I would recommend reaching out to them to see if they're willing to partner with you on that, go to the conference, that sort of thing. They're the ones that own it. They're the ones that are going to be making decisions on, price of land and those sort of things. So if they're aggressive, proactive type landowners, developers, it's worthwhile to have them partner with you and come to the show. And if you've got developers that are in the community that have sites and they're going to have a booth there, they're going to have meetings, ask those developers if you can sit in on some of those meetings that are focused on your community. That's another way to look at it.
So I'll throw this to either you, Aaron, or Charles, whoever wants to take it. But next question is, we have a number of council members and board members that have decided to go to Recon this year. What should we have them do, and what should we not have them do? Are there things we don't want them to do?
Well, Charles, let me take this really quick because I've got some strong feelings towards this. I do think it's important to have an EDC member or a council member there. But one thing I'll just caution you is do not take 10 people to a meeting. I would not take more than 2 or 3 people to a meeting with a retailer developer. You're going to overwhelm that retailer developer. I can think of a few communities that I've seen in the past that they'll take 15 people to this conference and they'll want all of them to sit in on a meeting. Keep it simple, 2 to 3. And where I would send the council members and economic development members is to some of these meetings, but maybe split them up, put them on different teams, send them out to go talk to retailers at their booths that maybe don't have meetings set up with, and then also help them attend those educational seminars also. But do not send, even 5 people to a meeting. Keep it no more than 3 people. That's just, that's our recommendation.
Yeah, we talked about how big the South Hall is, and if you've got multiple people on your team, it's a good chance to kind of divide and conquer and go just get site criteria and go get information on some retailers that aren't in your area yet that may be looking. It's a good chance for them to go and introduce themselves, introduce the community to some of the guys that you haven't had exposure to yet.
And I think it's so important to hammer home those realistic expectations. So a lot of council members and board members will think that, oh, we're going out to this conference, we'll get retailers out of it. Make sure you're consistently setting the expectation level for, hey, this is more about connections, and the follow up is where we'll have success. We're not going to come home with 10 new retailers. So Charles, last question I'll throw to you. From a smaller community, they said, this is literally our first time at Recon or any major conference. Where should we start?
Right. And like I said, in preparation, kind of how we touched on earlier, know what exactly it is you're selling. You may be a smaller community, but there are still retailers that are expanding in some of those smaller communities. We talked about the dollar stores that are opening up hundreds of new footprints across the country. Know who your target retailers may be beforehand. Plan out your trip throughout the first 2 or 3 days, where those are probably the most active days of the conference, and see if you can get a meeting with any of the guys that may be looking at your community. And if not, show up and introduce yourself, get some information, and then follow up after the fact. Even if you're a small community, doesn't mean that these can't be productive or that there aren't retailers looking at your community. You just have to make sure you find the right one, set the expectations like we've been talking about, that you're not going to come out with multiple, LOIs ready to move into your community, but just make sure that you start getting the word out that your community is open for business, that you're willing to work with these national brands to make something happen, and that you're a place to be, even though you may not be a large town.
Great. Well, we're gonna cut there for time, but if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out directly to either Aaron or Charles. Like I said, we've recorded this presentation, so we'll follow up with a video recording of this along with the slides. Aaron and Charles, thanks for your time. Is there anything you want to leave with the attendees today?
Yeah, just I would say take the steps that we've kind of laid out here, and you'll have a successful show. Again, manage your expectations out there. You're going out there to make connections, not necessarily to make a deal. And then if you have any other questions or we can help in any way, we'd love to meet with you at the conference, or like I said, I'll be willing to meet with some of you on Sunday if that's needed. So just let us know. But thanks again for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, even though we're getting towards crunch time here with just a few weeks going away, we still have time to help prepare you and get the right pieces in place for have a successful show. So don't hesitate to reach out, call or email either one of us, and hopefully we'll see you out there in Vegas.
And I know we mentioned it earlier, but we are in the North Hall, and we are in booth N2028U, and we'll have happy hours on Monday and Tuesday from 4 to 5:30. So we'll be sending emails about that. You'll probably see them, but at the conference, come by. If you need help while you're there, feel free to stop by the booth. We usually have some extra supplies and things like that. But thanks for joining us, and we hope everybody has a successful conference. And thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.